So we have this gentleman with the flag and a microphone, and this young lady with the flag and the microphone. If you will find them, just so everybody can hear your question, because if you ask it without the microphone, then I have to repeat it, and I may not repeat the same question. Depends on whether I like it or not. So,
the Supreme Court.
Yes, sir.
Tell me about the type of people you want to put on the Supreme Court.
Yes, Justice Scalia, Justice Thomas, judges that understand that their job is not to reinterpret the Constitution, manipulate the Constitution, or create loopholes in the Constitution. The job of a Supreme Court justice is to apply the Constitution of the United States as originally intended by the founders of this great land. Yes, sir.
As you know, Senator Rubio, the federal government debt is so high that everybody owes $50,000. I don't even have a TV in my room, so how can I owe so much money?
What's your name?
Hank.
Hank? How old are you, Hank?
9.
9. That's a good question, Hank. You're right, Hank. You know, what's happening in our country is unfair to you. We have people in Washington that don't care right now. Their argument is, you know what, I don't want to deal with this issue Hank just raised because I may lose my next election. So we'll figure it out eventually, but just not now because I got to get reelected. And it's been happening for way too long. And one of the reasons why it's happening is because the federal government has nothing to stop it from keep spending money. You know, they can keep printing money, they can keep borrowing money, but not forever. But they've been doing that for a very long time under both parties, although sadly under this president, he has grown the debt more than every president before him combined. But the other thing that's driving this debt, you know, in less than 5 years, 83% of our budget, 83% of the federal budget will be made up of 4 things: Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and the interest on the debt. That means with the other 17%, we're going to have to fund our roads and our safety net programs and the U.S. military and everything else the federal government does. That's not sustainable, guys. That's a debt crisis. Let me tell you what's going to happen. The people we borrow money from, one day they're going to say, I'm not sure if America can pay us back. We're either going to stop lending you money or you have to pay us more interest. And when that happens, we're going to be spending more on interest than we are on our military. So we have a real crisis on our hands. And I used to be able to tell people, by the time you're an adult, I got to tell you, if we keep doing what we're doing now, before you're even in high school, we might have that debt crisis. So we have to fix it. And the way to fix it is we have to save Social Security and Medicare. These programs are really important. My father passed away in 2010 from cancer. I don't know what we would have done if there was no Medicare. It provided not just his care, but ultimately his hospice care that allowed him to die with dignity and with security. And you know, my parents worked hard for many years, and every time they got a paycheck, the government took some money out of their paycheck and said, we're going to put this money into a special fund, and when you retire, we're going to take care of your health care, and we're going to pay you some of these benefits back so that you, when you retire, will be able to have a standard of living. Those programs are going bankrupt. Because when they were designed, there were 16 people paying in for every person retired. Now it's down to 3 to 1. Soon we'll be down to 2 to 1. So we have to fix those programs. Now here's the good news. The good news is we can fix those programs and we don't have to disrupt anything for people that are on it now or are about to retire. But here's the truth. Social Security and Medicare is going to look different for you and me than it does for the people that are on it now. When right now I'm supposed to retire when I'm 67. I'll have to retire at 68. If I've made a lot of money, my Social Security is not going to grow as fast as someone who made less money. Medicare could be the option of taking my money and using it to buy a private plan that I like better. We have that now somewhat. It's called Medicare Advantage. It is going to be the best thing in the world. It's just going to be a little different than the way it works for the people that are on it now. If we do that, we combine it by growing our economy in a robust and sustained way, then we can bring the debt under control. We're not going to have a debt crisis, and you're going to have a chance at the American dream. If we fail, we're going to have a debt crisis. So in your question is embedded how important this election truly is. It's why it's not an exaggeration to say that we are deciding the very identity of this nation. Because if we elect the wrong person, they're not going to deal with this issue. And it's going to collapse around us, and we're going to be facing a debt crisis. And an American debt crisis is not like a Greek debt crisis. Greece, nice country, important country. America is the most powerful and important economy in the world. If we have a debt crisis, it has a ripple effect in the entire global economy. And so one of the reasons why I'm running for president is to deal this debt once and for all. For you and for my 4 kids, where are the other 3? Got like a walkout. They are campaigning, yeah. For them and for you and for everyone in this room, I want those programs to exist. I don't want my mom to have to go through any disruptions because she's 85. And I want to be able to avoid us having a debt crisis. We're going to do that when I'm president.
As president, will you stand up against the corporations that are now starting to make billions of dollars in profits from the massive transfer of spending that the Pentagon is undertaking, transferring spending into renewed spending on nuclear weapons, weapons which endanger us all and only enrich the corporations?
Well, we're going to modernize our nuclear arsenal when I'm president. And we're going to modernize it because China's modernizing theirs and Russia is modernizing theirs, because North Korea now has nuclear weapons and Iran will soon have them, because Pakistan and India have nuclear weapons. And the truth is that the reduction of our military capabilities, even in the nuclear realm, is actually going to make us more dangerous. If a country ever thinks they could win a nuclear war, they may actually launch one. What kept the world from having a third world war, a nuclear exchange, is that the Soviets didn't want to die and neither did we. And neither one of us believed we could survive a nuclear war. And so neither one of them undertook it. And so the bottom line is that we need to maintain that balance. If a leader or a country ever comes to believe that they might be able to survive and win a nuclear exchange, it actually heightens the prospect of a nuclear war. And so we are going to modernize our nuclear arsenal. And the second thing we're going to have to deal with is proliferation. Because I already told you this earlier in my speech, the leader of North Korea is crazy. And it's not something I throw. He is insane. He is a lunatic, but he has nuclear weapons and long-range rockets that can probably already reach California. Iran is governed by an apocalyptic Shia cleric, a guy who believes his job is to trigger an apocalypse. And he's going to acquire nuclear weapons eventually. We're concerned about something going wrong in Pakistan and those nuclear weapons winding up in the hands of a terrorist group. And so, we need to worry about proliferation, which is why a missile defense shield is so important. Now, you talk about corporations. I think we do need to fix procurement in the Defense Department. We do not do a good job in procurement. We're not actually spending a lot of money these days in new weapons programs. The vast majority of it's going to a growing civilian workforce in the Defense Department. That needs to be dealt with. And every dollar that's wasted in the Defense Department is a dollar that's not keeping us safe. So we do need to deal with the procurement. But we cannot, in this world, as dangerous as it's become, gut our military capabilities. I want peace. All of you want peace. America wants peace, but strength is what leads to peace. Weakness invites war. Weakness invites miscalculation. Yes, sir. Thank you for your service. Air Force retired, is that you?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Is that on? That's actually, Margot, related to two statements I'd like to make. Number one is, when you become president and you re-equip the United States military, I want you to let them do their job.
Yes, sir.
Right. And the second thing I ask is a favor. You've got my vote if you do one thing.
Yeah.
And that's when you become president, you will not pardon Hillary.
Well, I think that's actually her plan, is to pardon herself. But on the rules of engagement, absolutely. I mean, we are asking our men and women to go into harm's way. And by the way, yes, we want to avoid civilian casualties. Absolutely. We don't want to indiscriminately strike at people. We go through extraordinary measures. But here's the thing. You should not be committing forces to a military engagement if you are not providing them not just the rules of engagement, but also the equipment that they need, the resources they need to win. You have to define what victory is, and you have to allow them to win. And we should be very cautious in the use of military force. It should, quite frankly, be most of the, if not all the time, a last resort. In fact, I believe force should only be used in the furtherance of peace. So why do I believe we need to further attack ISIS from the air and help lead a coalition on the ground? Because ISIS is an enemy of peace. There is no accommodation with ISIS. They don't have ambassadors. ISIS does not have a diplomatic corps. Either they win or we win. We have no choice. There is no peaceful coexistence with a group like ISIS. They will only continue to grow until that threat reaches us here at home and around the world. So at all costs, we want to be able to avoid war and violence. I don't know anyone here who's in favor of war for the sake of war. But sadly, we live in a dangerous world where evil still looms. And when that has to be confronted, we must give the most powerful military in the world the rules of engagement and the resources they need to win so that peace can prevail. Can we get one more after this, please? Okay.
What would you do about...
He's going like this. He needs his mic.
Mic 3? Thank
All
you.
right, there we go.
What will you do about protecting Christians in the Middle East from being massacred
Yeah,
today and
well,
into the future?
the first is to call it what you just did. It's genocide. What's happening with Christians in the Middle East is genocide. And it's not just in Iraq and in Syria. Christian communities in virtually every country in the Middle East are shrinking rapidly. In the city of Mosul, there are ancient Christian communities that have been there for 1,700 years, 1,800 years, that for the first time ever, there's no presence left. And so I think a couple things needs to happen. Number one is I think we need to provide safe havens that they can go to so they don't have to leave the region, so they can return to their ancestral homelands after they're liberated. Number two is I think they should be given the opportunity to be a part of a coalition to defeat ISIS. There are willing fighters among the Christians in that region that want, at the minimum, the opportunity to defend themselves and their families, as opposed to having to depend on Shia militias, on Sunni tribes, or on Kurds. Although the Kurds are great fighters, they have a right to be able to defend themselves. So these are important things that are happening. They're being driven from these ancient communities. Their churches and are being destroyed and related to rubble. These are ancient communities. And I do think that that's one of the reasons why I support the creation of safe havens in the region, so they don't have to travel 2,000 miles away, so that they can return to their homes when ISIS has been defeated, and to ensure that in a future Iraq and in a future Syria, they have the right to self-determination, self-representation, and that they will be protected in that region.
Good morning, Senator.
Good morning. Is it morning? It's past noon.
I have
isn't
no
it?
idea.
Yes.
I understand that you're concerned about the North Korea threat, and I know that everyone here shares that concern. This has been a country that has vexed administrations across the board, Democratic, Republican, and so on. So what do you propose doing that's different from what they've done?
Well, first, I think North Korea should be returned to the state sponsors of terrorism list. That has real implications. Second, there are individuals in North Korea that are very wealthy, that are aligned with the government. We know that they move assets and resources all over the world. We should be sanctioning individuals around the elites that surround the North Korean government. North Korea has really no real economy, but it does have a cadre of very elites that are very wealthy and are moving their money and traveling around the world. We should go after their resources as well. The third is we need a missile defense shield. We need to be able to protect this country from a launch of long-range missiles from North Korea. And that's why working with Japan and South Korea is so critical. The Japanese in particular have a very capable Navy. A lot of people don't realize it because Japan is called a self-defense force. But in fact, the Japanese Navy may be the 5th or 6th most capable on this planet. And one of the good things that's happened in recent years is that Japan has reinterpreted, I should say, or somehow found a creative way to allow for something that's called collective self-defense. Under previous law in Japan, Japan could only respond to an attack if they were directly attacked, which meant if a U.S. naval vessel came under attack, if there was a rocket launch against South Korea, Japan couldn't do anything about it under their laws. They were only able to respond if they were directly attacked. Now, under Abe, they now are arguing, and now they're now taking the position that they are allowed to come to the collective self-defense of their allies if they come under attack. Why is that important? Because they and their Navy are a critical part of a missile defense capability, the ability to shoot down a North Korean rocket launch in the region before it reaches California, before it reaches Japan, before it reaches South Korea. I think we have to have we also need a West Coast missile defense shield to protect us from a nuclear launch from North Korea. Because they don't just have warheads, they are increasingly increasing the range and precision of their rockets. It is not outside the realm of possibility that in less than a decade, North Korea will possess rockets capable of hitting as far away as the Midwest of the United States. And then they hold us hostage. Ultimately, you would love to see a change in government in North Korea. It is a very, very difficult place to predict what's going to happen. It is not a normal government, to say the least. Its new leader has literally executed virtually anyone around him that didn't respect him, much less support him. And so there's a lot of instability internal there. And hopefully one day there will be a unified Korea. And he obviously looking more like the South than like the North. But in the interim, the most we can do is protect ourselves from it. And that means having a West Coast defense shield and also working with our allies in the region, particularly Japan, to have a localized missile defense shield that protects them and our Pacific assets from attack from North Korea. Put them back on the list of sponsors of terrorism and individually sanction individuals related to the North Korean government. Go after their money, their bank accounts, and their assets all over the world. And I'll need to wrap up the question portion because I've got to get to my next event. So I just want to close by thanking you for being a part of this and thanking you for being here today and once again asking you for your vote. And I'm asking you, if you want to be a part of our team, sign up to volunteer, sign up to be a part of our effort. We're going to bombard you with emails for just a day, and then we're going to leave you alone. And then we're going to come back in August because we're going to win New Hampshire in the general election, and we are going to take back this country. Thank you and God bless.